Be'ezus Hashem, with a refuah shlema to all of our friends and loved ones. We're going to be looking at the final Midah in the Sefira of Hod, which is Malchut ShebeHod. So we've looked at Malchut already as the idea of how all of the previous Midos are connected and ultimately delivered via Yesod into the world and expressed within the reality of the Olam HaTachtonim. And that's the concept of Malchus. The way that the Ramchal describes it is Mitziut Chok Zeh, the existence of a law of reality that there should be an Ibrahim in the Tachtonim, in the physical world, in the last level of existence as manifest in our world. That's called Malchus. And it's the place in which all of the previous Midos come together and are Megale, the kind of the original Ratzon of Hashem for creation, into the world. So when we're looking at that within Hod, we come to a kind of an interesting connection. So I think that maybe the first place to start on this is understanding what it takes within a person's own Hod to express Malchus. Meaning if you're going to be embodying this idea of being Megale Kvod Shamayim, how does that interplay with your own personal value, with your own sense of self? And I think that the first step in understanding that and kind of connecting it to our own, day-to-day lives is thinking about it in these terms. That for me to truly be myself and to express the value which I know to be me, it can only be done fully to the greatest extent and really in a sincere way if in doing so I'm also expressing the source of the reality from which I am an expression of. In other words, as we kind of touched upon yesterday, but I think there's a point that needs to be driven home in this Midah, which is unique. If I'm going to be expressing Hod within my life and through the song of my life, it has to be that the primary value of the Hod of my life is itself a Gilui of Kvod Shamayim rather than something personal that belongs to me specifically. So it's not only that we saw yesterday, that I need to take all the ingredients of my life, see them as the gift that God gave me, and sing to HaKadosh Baruch Hu with my entire life, unadulterated with every single aspect, and allow it to be mushlam together into the shleimut of my own life and the shleimut of the world. But it needs to be that in doing that, I'm being Megala Kvod Shamayim. And so if I would be doing something that wouldn't be Megala Kvod Shamayim, that would be the opposite of an action of Hod. And I think that maybe a place that we can kind of get started on this is to look at an interesting exchange that happened between a group of Tanaim as they were sitting together in Yavna. The Malchut Rabbi Yishmael records this with a little more detail than the version that shows up in Masechah Sota. So I opted to quote the version in the Mechilta, where it says that Rabbi Tarfon is sitting together with a group of Zakenim in Yavne. And they have a whole discussion back and forth between other different questions that they ask Rabbi Tarfon. And finally they ask and they say, Limadnu Rabbeinu, be'ezeh zchut zacha Yehuda lamalchus. What merit was there that allowed Yehuda, the Shevet, the son of Yaakov, to merit the Malchus, to come from Shevet Yehuda? So he says, I don't know, you guys tell me. Come on, guys. Amru Atem. Come on. Give me your best shot. So they started bouncing different ideas at him, and they say, maybe it's because Yehuda said, Ma betza ki na'arog et achinu. What gain do we have from killing our brother? Let's sell him off to this caravan that's passing by. So Rabbi Tarfon says, I don't know. I guess that would have, given some sort of kapara for the mechira in the first place. The fact that he stepped in, no, that's not enough. So they say, well, maybe it's when Yehuda recognized the items from his daughter-in-law and he said, Sadka mimeni, right? So he had that hoda'ah. So he says, Rabbi Tarfon looks at them and says, no. Maybe that's enough to be mechaper for the fact that he slept with her in the first place. That's not enough for Malchus. That's not what we're talking about. So they say, well, maybe it was the fact that he said, Yeshev na avdecha tachas hana'ar, that he told Yaakov that you can put me in the place of Binyamin. If I don't come back with Binyamin, then you can throw me in instead. So Rabbi Tarfon says, no, what are you talking about? He's a guarantor. Guarantors pay back the job. That's their responsibility. Wow, such a big chiddush. He stepped in as a guarantor. That's what guarantors do. So they say, okay, so Rebbe, tell us, like what was the pshat? What was the thing that Yehuda did to be zocha to the Malchus? So he says, I'll tell you what happened. Nothing to do with Yehuda per se. Here's what happened. When the Shvatim were standing at Kriyat Yamsuf, they were all standing right on the edge of the Yam, and they were all arguing with each other. No one wanted to step into the water, right? They're stuck between the water and this horrible army coming at them from behind. So they're all bickering with one another. I don't want to go in first. I don't want to go in first. What happens? Nachshon ben Aminadav says, forget all you guys, and he dives in headfirst into the water. And he just throws everything on the line. And his entire shevet jumps in after him, says the Medrash. Kafatz Nachshon ben Aminadav v'shivto acharav letoch galei hayam, right into the waves of the sea. Lefichach zacha l'malchut. It's because of this that he was zocha l'malchut. So listen to this language. It says, quotes the pasuk. The pasuk says, we read in Hallel, B'tzeit Yisrael miMitzrayim, Beit Yaakov me'am lo'ez, Hayta Yehuda lekodsho Yisrael mamshalotav. Because Yehuda was mikadesh me, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, mi shekadesh shmi al hayam, the one who is mikadesh my name on the Yamsuf, yavo v'yimshol al Yisrael. That's what Yisrael mamshalotav, that he's going to be the memshala over Yisrael. So this is, Donnie Raskas asked this for a raya a couple weeks ago, that for the connection between Malchus and being Mekadesh Shem Shemayim, here we have it in the Mechilta. The Mechilta is saying that as a result of him being Mekadesh Shem Shemayim, he was Zocha to Malchus. What was the Mekadesh Shem Shemayim? That he put his personal life second to the value of the life that he represented. That it wasn't about whether I make it out kicking and screaming in the waves of the ocean or not, but that the higher value that my life has to be embedded within and is expressive of is the Mekadesh Shem Shemayim of Hashem in the world. And it's only insofar as that matters that my personal life would matter. So in other words, the hod that you express by being the individual that you are is only in so much as you are expressive of Hashem's presence in this world. And it's in standing up for that value and putting everything on the line and jumping in. And as the Gemara over there in Sota says, and this is where the Gemara has a little piece that the Mechilta doesn't, that Hashem turns to Moshe and he says, what are you sitting there davening for? Yedidi are tavu bayam, my beloved are drowning in the sea over there. And you're sitting over here davening? Go over there, hit the sea, and get things moving. So in other words, they were mamish drowning, it says. Hashem turns and says, they're literally drowning there in the water. So it's not about who they are personally. It's about what they express nationally, universally for the people of Klal Yisrael, and ultimately for the whole world. And this is what gets the ball rolling for the Malchus of the Jewish people. It's this sense of who I am in the context of the Am, in the context of the world as a whole, in the greater picture of being Mechabed, the Malchus Shamayim in this world. It's in that place that my own personal hod ultimately shines. And it's for this reason, it's when a person stands in for the Malchus Shamayim, that ultimately their hod supersedes the regular confines of an individual life, of a human life. And I think it's for this reason that the Medrash says that when Aharon died, all of Klal Yisrael was in utter disbelief that it was even possible for a person like Aharon to be stuck into the limitations of death. So as the Medrash puts it, when Moshe and Elazar came down from the mountain, so the whole people gathered around and they said, where's Aaron? Where'd he go? So they said, he died on the mountain. So they say, Heich yachol malach hamaves lifgoa bo adam. How is it possible that the malach hamaves could possibly impact a person she'amad b'malach hamaves v'atzro, who stood in the path of the malach hamaves and brought an end to his activity? As the pasuk says, "Vayamod bein hameitim ubein hachayim v'teyatzar hamagefa." Aaron was the one who was able to bring an end to the magefa when people were dying, man, woman, and child. This massive outbreak after they had complained, for like 3 times in a row in Parshat Chukat. So, and the amazing thing here is that when a person goes beyond their own individual status of the hod that I am as an individual, and everything that they do is expressive of, and this is why the Bigdei Kahuna are meant to be expressive, and the peak of the Bigdei Kahuna is Kodesh La Hashem, dedicated entirely to Hashem, that a person recognizes in the Kahuna that they're not functioning as an individual, they're functioning as messengers, as emissaries of Kvod Shamayim. And when a person is functioning in that role, it's almost impossible to believe that they would be held back by their personal physical limitations of who they are. And so I think that when we're thinking about what it means to live with the Midah of Malchus ShebeHod, what it really demands of us, is to recognize that part of functioning as having that Malchut within us is to have that certain amount of anivus, of humility, of understanding what our place is in expressing the Hod which is us, recognizing that it's part of being Megala Kvod Shamayim. And maybe this is hinted at, that what we saw recently in the Daf, the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai taught, that the reason why the Jewish people are allowed to go out on Shabbat wearing bells, right, on their clothing, even though it's the derech of Melachim to wear. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said, Kol Yisrael b'nei Melachim heim. All of Klal Yisrael are children of kings. We all have this midah of Malchus within us. That it's not just stam, that we're all, wow, we can all be mechabed ourselves. But ultimately, that in our lives we're meant to express the kavod shamayim, the malchut shamayim. And so yes, that translates into how you dress when you walk in the street. Of course, that's on the pashut level. But also, what it means is that you have to carry yourself in your life as being expressive of the malchut shamayim. That in as much as you are expressing your own selfhood, that must be entirely consistent with bringing godless to the kavod shamayim at large. And so when Rav Moshe Cordovero in the Tomer Devorah talks about how does a person accustom himself to acting with the midah of Malchus, he says, first of all, you have to be lahashpil at atzmo. You gotta lower yourself down a little bit. Lo yitga'el libo b'chol asher lo. Not to have any sort of arrogance with anything that you have. V'yasim atzmo tamid. Ke'ani v'yamid atzmo lifnei kono kedal sho'elu mitchanein. Constantly, you're in the presence of God, beseeching, requesting, recognizing that anything you have is only yours in as much as it's expressive of the Malchus of Hashem, which is being Megala in this world. You are that Gilui. You understand? When the Ramchal says that Malchus is the way in which Hashem's will is Megala in the Tachtonim, that's us. Right? That's not some other guy down the road and now I'm just this bystander watching Hashem's Gilui in the world. I myself am that Gilui. The Gilui of Hashem's Hod in the world is manifest through us. So it's only to that extent that we recognize that we can act truly and with integrity to the Hod which we manifest. And I think it's for this reason, and kind of carrying along the same lines, that we find this idea, particularly when it comes to Malachim, and most emphatically brought up in the archetype for Malchus, who's David HaMelech, this idea of constantly lowering one's personal kavod in place of the kvod shamayim. The Rambam talks about this at the end of Hilchos Lulav, where he talks about the simcha that we're meant to have in asiyot mitzvos, in performance of mitzvos, is that not to be cholek kavod la'atzmo, not to attribute honor to oneself, but rather to throw your heart into the simcha shel mitzvah, regardless of what it makes you look particularly as an individual. Recognize that it's a greater kavod to be even mavaze yourself, to belittle your own personal stake in things, if that is going to be making a greater name for HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the world. And the place where this is talked about extensively in the Medrash is where it talks about David and the incredible procession that they had, where they brought the Aaron back to Yerushalayim for the second time after things went a little haywire on the first attempt, and they're bringing back the Aaron to Yerushalayim, and we have this incredible exchange between Michal bat Shaul, David's wife, and David, after he comes back and the Pesach's describing this incredible dance that he's doing, and he's kicking and dancing, and the Middot says he's doing somersaults and jumping jacks, and he's kicking all over, and he's wearing this, this nice light linen garment, and it's, flailing in the wind all over there, and Michal is absolutely horrified. It says she's looking from the window, and all the women of Klal Yisrael are on the rooftops, and they're all watching the king kicking and dancing and whistling and clapping and dancing up a storm. And he comes home, and before he has a chance to make it into the castle to come and bless his whole family, so she comes marching out of the house, and she says, "Wow, ma nichbad HaYom, how honorable was the king today, as he exposed himself like one of the maidservants of Klal Yisrael. Wow, kol hakavod to you, David. You really stood in the limelight today." And the Medrash adds so much, very poignant background conversation to this, where the Medrash, I'm not going to go through this whole piece. It's an extremely lengthy Medrash in the Bin Bar Rabbah, where it goes through this incredible dialogue. But essentially, the point that I want to bring out is that she says, "Today you really exposed how great my father's Malchus was, Shaul." That it says, what's the difference between you and him, David? My father's family was known, they were so tsanua, they were so kadosh, that you didn't even see a finger, a heel. Never in their entire life did you see even one part of their body exposed. Nothing. They were so careful. When he would go to the bathroom, he would build a sukkah around himself. And when he would go out, no one would be able to see him. He was all wearing clothing, dragging down the hallway. And David says back to her scathing remarks. So he says, it's so interesting that you mentioned, your father and how tsanua he was. He says, "Ve'ilu haya avich tzadik yoter mimeni." If your father was so much more righteous than me, you think God would choose me and reject your father? What do you think this is? You think God's making a mistake over here? Why do you think he kicked him out of the job for? Obviously, he was doing something wrong. And he goes on and he says, your father constantly seeked out his own honor. He was mevakshin kvod atzman umenichin kvod shamayim. And he left the kvod shamayim off to the side. What do? Eini osekin, I don't do that at all. Meiniach kvod atzmi, I leave to the side my own honor. Umevakesh kvod shamayim, and I seek out the honor of Hashem. And if only I could do more, says David. Unekalosi od mizos, if only I could do something else to further be mavazeh my personal stake in things, and to show that it's not about me over here. There's something greater that needs to be expressed. And I would never compromise on the kvod shamayim for the sake of my own kavod, because to do that would ultimately be a pagam in my own kavod, in my own hod. In other words, if I wouldn't be expressing the kavod of Hashem in the world by means of my actions, not only would that be a pagam in kvod Malchut, in the way that Hashem's Malchut is expressed, but ultimately that would be a disservice to myself. And I just want to throw in one more source about this because it's too beautiful to leave out. An incredible medrash that talks about an exchange between Abraham and Sarah, where it says that, after Sarah miraculously has a baby, and it says, now the women are going to say, Heinika banim Sarah. So the medrash is medayik. It says, why does it say that Sarah is going to nurse children instead of child? Heinika ben l'Sarah. She only had one kid. So it says as follows, that the whole background over here is that everyone was afraid, that Avram was afraid that people are going to think that really, the kid is from somebody else, and realize really it wasn't Sarah's kid, and so on and so forth. So the Medrash says an amazing thing. It says, Sarah Imenu was exceedingly tsanua. She was an incredibly reserved woman. And, she had that level of dignity. Amar la Avram Avinu, ein zo shat tzniut. Now's not the time for tznius, Sarah. Gali et dadaich, expose your chest, kedei sheyedu hakol, she'itchil HaKadosh Baruch Hu lasos nisim, so that everybody knows that now is the time for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to perform miracles in the world. Now's not the time for tznius, Sarah. I know year-round you keep yourself covered nice and frum, but right now, the world needs to know that Hashem is involved in this, and this is a gilui of an incredible kavod of Hashem, that He's involved and He's being mashgiach, in our descendants, in creating Yitzchak from the two of us, now's the time to show. Now's not the time to have that reserve. For you to hold back in this moment and to stay in your tent privately nursing your son Yitzchak would be memait kavod shamayim. It wouldn't be, people wouldn't look and think, wow, Sarah the tzaddikas, she's sitting in her tent still even though she has a kid. No, because people are going to get the wrong idea. And people aren't going to understand the incredible involvement that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has in our lives. And so the Medrash says that what happened was this incredible miracle, and this part of the Medrash is a little more well known, that Sarah became so fertile that she was able to nurse all of the children of the community. All the other women, it says that their milk supply dried up, and they weren't able to nurse their own children, and they were all lining up outside of her tent, and she was able to supply nourishment to the entire community. And I think that this just brings out this idea in another capacity. Because what we're finding over here is that never compromise on the kvod shamayim for your own kavod. It's the essential idea of Malchut ShebeHod. That our own glory needs to be expressive of the Malchut shamayim. And we need to see ourselves as not just delivering ourselves in the glory which is our own lives, but ultimately delivering Hashem's ratzon. The sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila needs to be coming directly out through our lives. And that our lives should always be expressive of that Malchut, expressive of Hashem's glory in the world, and ultimately Hashem's presence through our actions. And so, in doing that, we ultimately put our personal stake, our local situation, as the secondary aspect of who we are, and we make sure that at the forefront of our identity, at the forefront of our actions, is the kavod of Malchut Shamayim that we have the opportunity to be megala through each and every aspect of our lives. So these are some thoughts for Malchut ShebeHod. Thanks again, everybody, for sticking around. Let's complete one more midah, 2 more to go. Can't believe we're coming to the close, but let's keep it up. It's always a pleasure, and have a wonderful night.